Because these loyalties that we create, they create narratives within us that subconsciously ask the question, who am I to be happy? Who am I to be successful, in love, to be abundant when my mom is so miserable? Hello all, and welcome back as we continue this conversation about the 4 themes and systemic family mapping and family constellations. Now the 4 themes, they help us understand how our life force is hindered and how we're limited because of these unconscious loyalties that we have and that we've decided to somehow unconsciously align ourselves with the fate of someone else in our family, most likely our parent. Now, how do we have these hidden loyalties to our parents? Why do they exist? And they exist because at some point, at the core, we learned that it's how we receive love, it's how we receive connection, and it's how we feel belonging in our family. So last week, we talked about the break in the bond and the core disconnection that happens when there is a break in the maternal bond. This week, I am talking about a merge. So what is a merge? I think the best way to explain it is to do a little exercise with you. So I'd like for you to sit into your space, kind of sink in, and let's do a little exercise. So I want you to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and connect with the story in you that embodies the relationship between you and mom. Just take a moment to get to that place. Now, a merge can also be with dad, but since we're talking about mother wound healing, we're just going to stick with mom, right? Because that's what we're talking about. All right, so as you've taken that deep breath, ask yourself these questions. Like, what is it that you remember about the way that mom showed up in life emotionally? Did she need to be taken care of? And if so, do you remember desperately wanting to make it better for her, whatever it was, just make it better? You just wanted to take away her pain. Do you remember that feeling? And where do you feel it in your body? Actually, now that we're, we can always include this body awareness piece to it. Did you feel like mom was always making bad decisions and you had to fix her choices or you had to clean up after her? Which one of your parents should have left the other? And the answer to this question is really interesting because it shows me the hidden loyalty that you have to one parent or another, for which parent you're most aligned with and for which parent you're most probably merged with. Did mom have health issues? Did she struggle financially? Did mom have relationship issues? Now, think about where those same issues have shown up in your life. Because a merge is how we live life like our parent. Do you experience some of the same issues with relationships? Do you have some of the same health issues as mom? If mom is anxious, do you also experience anxiety? If mom was never happy, do you find yourself more sad than you should be? Carrying a sadness that doesn't feel like it belongs to you? If mom was abused, have you also experienced abuse in relationships, whether they be friendships or partners? Have you experienced that as well? Because in a merge, it's basically you creating loyalty to mom to share her pain so she won't have to face it alone. Because if we think about it, as a child, when we are in the trenches with her, at least you have her attention while you are in that place with her. And maybe that's the only time you get her by yourself, or you get her attention, or you get her gaze. Because these loyalties that we create, they create narratives within us that subconsciously ask the question, who am I to be happy? Who am I to be successful, in love, to be abundant when my mom is so miserable? And that's the way that we subconsciously create a life that shows loyalty to mom. And that is what a merge looks like. It's living life like her. So I wrote a chapter in an anthology called The Strength of My Soul. And it was called Mitochondrial Semantics, and it was a story of how I so desperately tried to escape the patterns of my mom, especially around motherhood, but I could not escape it because of my loyalty to her, because of the merge created between us. Because when I was living life like her, I at least had some connection to her, I at least had some way of identifying with her. Because so often our relationship was defined by that break in the bond and that constant separation. But if I could live life like her, then, at least I have a connection. And these aren't conscious decisions that we make. These are unconscious loyalties that are created so that we can get our basic needs met. And that pattern compelled me to create these patterns in my life just with different players. It was the same exact thing, just with different key players in my life. Now, knowing the work that I know now, I think I would have ended that or written that story a little differently now, but the premise is still the same. When we learn that the only way to be connected to mom is to show our loyalty or to show our love, is to create a life that mirrors them, then we have a merge. Now, a merge is healed by understanding the systemic patterns that lay within our family, and then through constellation work, we can shift that weight and that fate of mom back to her. And for a little bit more understanding about constellation work or family constellation work, I'll share a link below that I wrote about it. I have not done a video yet on family constellations just because there's a specific way that I want to craft that, and I just haven't been in the situation to be able to do that yet. But family mapping and constellation work allows us to give back to our parents what belongs to them, to shift that energy back to them so that they can create their own fate. And it releases us from this need to be connected to them through these unhealthy loyalties, because we are working through what that means within our body. We're working through what it means to parent ourselves. We're working through what it means to then parent the little girl within us that did not get what it needed. And so when we start to parent that little girl, when we start to shift that weight back to mom and dad, our merge starts to break, and we start to allow them to live the fate that they own, and then we get to build and develop the fate of our own. And really what that does is it restores the life force within us that has been suffocated by this unhealthy need to live life like mom. That's it. That's what a merge is. It's easily identifiable within this system of the work that I do, and it's resolvable through constellation work. And then maybe even with hypnosis as we do some subconscious releasing of some of those connections, those triggers and patterns. And that's the 3 tools that I use. If you're interested in learning more about this work, I recommend watching some of my other videos. I've got some really great explanations of what this work is and how it all fits together. And then I also recommend, if you're interested in how family patterns can affect your life, there's a really great book out there called It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wolin. I have it right here, right? Grab this book. My training came out of this program, and this is really the work that I do. And there's some really great explanations and exercises in here for you to trace. Do you have a break in the bond? Do you have a merge? Maybe a rejection, an identification, as we kind of move through the other 2 themes in the next couple of weeks. I can't say enough about how this book really changed my life. It changed the trajectory of my own personal healing and even of my business. Once it came into my life, I was just in awe by it, and it really is. It's life-changing. And I hope that it'll do the same for you if you're looking for that type of deep transformational change. If you are not subscribed to my channel, please do so. Hit the bell. I try to release a new video every Friday. Sometimes I fall short, but for the most part, I try to keep on that schedule, especially now that we're back in the new year and I got lots of rest over the break. You can also follow me on Facebook, on my page. You can follow me on Instagram. I'll put the links below. You can find me in those places, and I do a lot more content and postings about this work. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know that you have lots of choices here on the YouTubes, here on the internets, but I'm grateful that you choose to spend time with me. Thank you. And come back next week. We will be talking about the next theme, a rejection. And a rejection is what happens to your life when you actively reject a parent. And that can get really deep. So come back, let's talk about it. I'm excited to have this conversation with you because I think this is the most asked about part of this work, is what is a rejection and what does it mean for your life? So I'll see you next week. Bye.